of the Rio Grande Valley, Molina of Marine Military Academy, the Hall of Famer, joined by his son, Harlingen South head basketball coach, Brian Molina. Molina's welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, yep. We're going to get started, of course, with a former colleague of mine on the Hall of Fame committee with you, Coach Mo, Brian Molina, with Roy Hess. He passed away a couple of days ago. It was a very shocking, completely, just so saddened by it. A guy that I spent a lot of time with, in the office. And, just Coach Mo, we'll start with you. You guys are in the Hall of Fame. Y'all are on the committee together. Just share some words on Roy.
I tell you what, Kevin, I know he'd been sick before, but we had our last meeting a couple of weeks ago on Zoom, and of course Roy is there. He's a quiet person, and really we would never know unless he told us, that he was sick. But Roy was a big contributor to our board of directors. He was our walk-in encyclopedia, our expert. But he was really quiet, and a lot of times, unless you asked him, he wouldn't say very much. But he was, like I said, he was a big part of our board of directors, and his knowledge was, beyond me. He'd go back, with the old timers, and he was, like I said, he was very valuable to us, and we're definitely going to miss him a bunch, and he was also the fact that he could write. He helped a lot in writing putting together our bios for our future inductees or people that have or trying to get into our pool. So he helped a bunch there also. So like I said, we're definitely gonna miss him. We are planning to go to his services as a group this evening, and then hopefully make it to the cemetery tomorrow. So like I said, he's going to be missed.
Brian?
I was just shocked when I heard the news. Obviously, just like everybody else, it just caught us off guard. I've got to know Mr. Hess really well, especially as a coach. He's always been around. I think my dad hit the nail around the head. He's just a quiet man. A lot of times he'd come by and, hey, coach, can I get an interview afterwards? And then he'd just sit there and I'd forget. And all of a sudden I'd walk over and he's still sitting there waiting. And, just a man that's been around Rio Grande Valley sports for a while. Even I remember growing up as a kid playing, I'd see him around. So obviously he's a landmark when it comes to Rio Grande Valley sports. And I know I'm going to miss him. I know, obviously, my dad talks about the Sports Hall of Fame, but it seems like he knows a lot when it comes to Rio Grande Valley and the athletes that came before him. I know I'm speaking for a lot of coaches when we all say that we're going to miss him.
Definitely. Thank you guys for sharing y'all's words. For us, we're definitely going to miss him as well. And Coach Mo, we actually as well, we do plan on going to the services this evening. A couple of the guys there from the Star. So he's definitely going to be missed for sure. So, but moving on, guys, how have y'all been? I know these days the restrictions are loosened. We can actually get out and enjoy ourselves just a little bit. How has that been for you guys after being just cooped up in the house for about a month and a half?
Pretty much for us, this happens really once school is out. Our sports pretty much are on on hold till school starts again. Our kids are not local kids; they come from all over the world, so once school is out, they leave. So that pretty much, I'm hoping that on their own that they're playing or they're working out or doing something on their own, but pretty much I have no control once they leave me. And that's what makes it difficult coaching in a boarding school like ours, So like I said, it's pretty much on hold until next year. And then I need to figure out who's coming back. I can't ever count on when they leave, like this group that I had this past year. I had one senior. So the rest of the kids were underclassmen and really young sophomores, freshmen. I had a couple of freshmen and, like I said, one senior. But we did pretty well this year. So if they come back, we should be okay. But then there's no guarantee that they'll come back. Most of the time if I'm lucky, I'll have some that'll stay here for 2 or 3 years, and it shows. They've been with me for 2 or 3 years. It shows out there on the court. But most of the time they're first years, so we just have to take what we get and work with that.
Yeah, with me, it's been a culture shock. Of course, obviously, it's been one of those that we've been sitting here in quarantine. Now things are loosening up, and I actually just got a Zoom with our athletic coordinator here a couple of hours ago. We know June 8th is coming up. We're working on plans as far as following the UIL guidelines and the local school district guidelines. Biggest thing for me is I know my kids have been working out. They send me workout logs. We have a run app that we follow. So as far as working out is concerned, at least I know my varsity guys have been working out. I think they're just anxious to get back in the gym in some way, shape, or form. So I know we're looking forward to Monday. I have a Zoom meeting with them again on Wednesday to go over the stipulations and stuff. And right now they're actually kind of in the dark. I told them, hey, don't be surprised if we're not allowed to be back in the gym. So it'll be a nice little surprise when I get to surprise them. Well, obviously, if they're listening right now, they'll know. But it'll be a nice little surprise. I know they're anxious to get back in the gym. And just me as a coach, I mean, I'm ready to get back in there. Being cooped up in inside, it has been difficult. Finally got out this past weekend and went to Island for a little bit and just stayed away from everybody. But it's nice to be able to get out a little bit. And I know that most coaches are in the same boat that I am. We're just anxious and itching to get back. I mean, I know the kids are as well. So over this whole quarantine time, I've gotten to listen to a lot of coaches speak around the state, clinics, strength and conditioning coaches doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm anxious to implement some of those things that I've learned from other coaches come Monday.
Does Harlingen, does the school district have a plan in place for not in the athletics, but specifically for basketball? Are you guys allowed to do specific basketball workouts? Volleyball go with volleyball, or is it just all an athletic group as one?
No, we're gonna. The good thing about our school district is we have a really good athletic director and a really great athletic coordinators. They let us be us. The only thing they do is they give us the UIL guidelines. Then they tell us which is what I love. They're having us create our own program. What we want to do. And then Coach Richie, who's our athletic coordinator, is great. I mean, if we want to work out with him, he's just like, Coach, just let me know. You can do our workouts too. Just bring coach, I have to go there with them and stuff like that. Or we could just do it on our own. I think for my purposes, I think we're going to go on our own. Just the social distancing. I think the least amount of kids, the better. They've given us the numbers that they want, told us about, coaches need to be wearing masks at all times. And so right now I'm putting together a plan for my program. And of course, tomorrow I'm meeting with Coach Garrett and Coach Lucio as far as what we're going to do as far as gym time is concerned and trying to evaluate players as far as what we can do and what we can't do, because we're only allowed a certain amount of coach to player ratio. But kudos to UIL for letting us get back in. I know that we're under the microscope right now. I know social distancing is key, and kids' safety is absolutely number one on our list, and the staff as well. So we have a lot of things in place, from sanitation to procedures that we have to do to take in temperatures every single day, to them filling out, a certain guidelines that their parents have to fill out daily, just for them, just to step on campus. So all those things are in place. Obviously, it's first week's probably going to be a lot of trial and error. The biggest thing is we're just happy to be able to do something. I think that's the biggest thing, and HCISD has been great as far as trusting in their coaches and putting the coaches and the players' health first.
Definitely. Coach Mo, for you guys, you mentioned, it's different because all the kids leave there at MMA, Marine Military Academy. Sitting back and watching everything unfold, did other coaches reach out to you on what to do? Because obviously none of us have seen this before, but having all the knowledge you do, I'm sure some coaches had to have reached out, and maybe Brian reached out. And how would you handle things as far as workouts?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's new to me as well. Basically, it's like when my kids leave, I try to impress on them the importance of just staying active, if nothing else. And I have some kids that have membership in these gyms and clubs, and some of them actually play AAU and stuff like that. Not very many, but there are some. So basically, as far as, since we have really very little control, I think what they're doing now, I know what Brian is doing with his kids is just awesome. But it all goes back to what kind of program you have, what kind of trust you have on one of your kids. In other words, you can ask them to do certain things, and then you have to trust that they're going to do it simply because they believe in the program. So that that to me is probably the most important thing, and really it shows what kind of program you have. It's built on trust. It's built on tradition. And what do they expect from themselves? And so really, if somebody were to ask me about this, like I said, it's new to all of us. I would mainly say, just keep them active. If you can, keep in touch with them. In other words, just carry on with your program without you there, okay? And then trust that they're going to do it.
Definitely. We're also, Coach Molina, volleyball, you're the assistant volleyball coach there at Harlingen South. Obviously we don't know what's going to happen in the fall. I feel that football will be back, cross country, volleyball, of course, most likely with some guidelines, but what's the feel for volleyball with you and Coach Lucio, and just where you guys are at as far as the volleyball program goes?
This is all news to us. Obviously, everybody keeps saying that, like we're all on the same page with that. But we talk a lot. We talk on a daily basis, and we're just trying to. It's funny, as a matter of fact, that you actually brought that up. I was on a phone call before I got on this with her just about drill work. What can we do with the girls? How can we do this? What's legal? I mean, obviously, we can't scrimmage or do anything like that. But our thing is we've already come up with a mindset. And we've been doing Zoom workouts, over the computer. Coach Lucio's phenomenal. I mean, I'm sitting here just in awe with the drills that she comes up with, and it's kind of funny. I mean, you're coaching each girl in an individual screen, but as far as the actual drill work is concerned, there's going to be a lot of cones put down. There's going to be a lot of tape put down. There's going to be a lot of spacing put down. We're going to have to slow a lot of drills down because of the fact that we need to give kids time to move in and out of that 6 to 10 foot ratio of social distancing that they're supposed to have. We're remaining optimistic. I mean, our state has been opening up. Numbers have begun a little bit better. We're going to prepare like we're starting on day one, August 1st or August 3rd or whatever the first starting date is for volleyball this year. And we're just going to treat it as such. And I think right now one thing I think we've been preaching to the girls, and I've been preaching to the boys with my boys basketball program, is adversity. I mean, if we've ever had to face adversity, you're facing it right now. It's testing your character. It's like Dad said, you build a program, you got to trust in the program. I know that she's doing a good job of keeping record with the girls. Our girls are checking in daily with workout logs and everything like that. And I'm doing that with the boys. The boys are checking in, sending me videos. They're social distancing and working out together as well. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're praying every night that of course that the health of people are first, and that God willing that we will be able to have sports. I mean, I think sports is huge. I think the kids need to stay active and be active, and so hopefully we'll find a way. I love the state that we're in because they're pushing to try to open things up as much as possible, keeping everybody's safety involved. But I'm curious to see what type of regulations that are going to have. I know we still have several months before that August start of school / football and cross country and volleyball are around the corner. So I know we're excited still.
One question and one conversation I've had with football coaches is that we see the June 8th date, and we see football August 6th, volleyball August 1st. For a volleyball coach, when does that red flag come up to where, say, we're in July, middle of July or early July, and we're still having very strict restrictions to where things aren't as open as we'd like them to be, to maybe start thinking of the possibility of the season getting pushed back a bit?
Yeah, we talk about that. We're thinking mid-July. If mid-July we haven't been able to start scrimmaging or some type of solution. I think even UIL is even shooting for around that time. Nobody wants to hit us with a curveball the day before workouts are supposed to start. So I think come mid-July, another phase will open up, and I think by then we'll either know, hey, we're going to be starting according to date, or if we're going to be pushing some of these seasons back a little bit. I think we're ready for both. Simply because of the fact that we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's just one of those things that we're all in unfamiliar territory, unfamiliar water. But I think not so much the panic button, but I think if we haven't heard anything by mid-July as far as us being able to move in a certain direction, I think UIL has been real good about that. Then I think we'll start making other plans as far as later in the season or what have you.
I personally believe we will play. I just don't think we will start on time. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I feel where we're at. We will play. It just might be, at a later time, whether it's a couple of weeks or a month. But hey, I know it's Coach Lucio's birthday, so happy birthday to her. Shout out to her.
Yeah, it
Coach
is.
Lucio.
Yeah,
Kevin, along the same lines, we've got to remember that everybody's pretty much in the same boat. Okay, so this is where coaching comes in, to me, your knowledge, your preparation. In other words, how do you compensate for the lack of time that you have? Okay, this is where you're going to have to use your skill, your knowledge, your know-how, and kind of organize yourself to the point where, okay, well, I don't have as much time to do what we usually do. So what can we do to utilize that time effectively? Okay. And this is, like I said, this is where your knowledge, your skill, getting across to the kids. And I think that's, as a coach, I think that is very important. So in other words, how do you compensate? There's a lot of things that you can't help. I'll never forget, I was, when I was inducted into the Hall of Honor, I was interviewed by this person, and one of the questions that he asked me, he said, Coach, it's common knowledge that you guys down in South Texas, down in the Valley, they don't have the size of the kids that up north. So how do you prepare? How do you prepare for a game let's say when you're a playoff game, when you're coming up against a team with a lot of size and, and so forth. So what I told him, I said, look, I don't worry about the things that I cannot control. What I do is I focus on the things that I can control, okay, and prepare my kids as best as I can to compensate for that. I said, because you can't teach 6'5", you can't teach 6'8", but how do I handle it? How do I approach it? How do I prepare for that? Okay, so it's like I said, going back to what I was mentioning, it depends on, this is where your coaching, your knowledge and all that comes in. So the good coach, the good programs, they're going to find ways to compensate for that. And that's why they're the good programs. That's why Harlingen South is always tough in basketball. No matter, they graduate everybody and they'll be back the next day. That's where it all comes in. So like I said, we're going to have to adjust ourselves and help our kids adjust as well and cope with it. And hey, let's get ready to play. We got to get on the court. We got to get on the field, the football field. So, hey, what can we do? I know we don't have the time, but what can we do to be as prepared as we can, to handle the challenge?
Definitely. We're joined by Coach Mo Molina of MMA and Coach Brian Molina of Harlingen South. Sticking with basketball, guys, fortunately we were able to see, you guys were able to finish y'all season, and then I believe it was you guys were up at San Antonio, right? At the state.
The state tournament.
Yeah.
What ended up happening?
We were sitting there watching the 3A semifinal. We're watching the 3A semifinal, and well, first we played it by ear that morning when we drove up. We're checking all the reports, and all the reports indicated, hey, it's going on. So by the time we got there, it was about 10 o'clock for the 3A session. So we watched the first game, and then at the end of the first game, they made an announcement that due to the COVID-19, that that there will only be one more game, and then that's it until further notice. So we were able to watch, San Antonio Cole play in their semifinal game that they won, and then that was it. I mean, they just kind of, we'll let y'all know type deal, and they just kind of shut that down. And I think that was the end of high school sports. I guess as far as basketball stuff was concerned. Dad, it was funny because Dad and I were getting texts left and right, like, hey, is it still on? Because other coaches were getting ready to come up here. We're like, yeah, we're sitting here watching the games. And they're like, well, wait a second. They just made an announcement. Nope, this is the last game. And then everything's kind of done. It was already difficult as it was, Kevin. I felt bad because if you didn't have a previous, like we purchased our tickets way in advance, obviously we're coaches. But I mean, those fans that waited till the last minute or tried to show up to the Alamo Dome to buy a ticket for a game, they weren't selling any. So we saw a lot of people outside kind of looking for tickets, trying to find some. But I think UIL made the right move in that to try to prevent the spread of it.
Yeah, and I remember seeing that you guys were up there, and I know the girls basketball was able to finish that week before, so that's really strange. And then obviously now the rest of the spring sports got canceled, was the final say. But for teams, the class 4, 5, and 6A where you make it to state, but you don't even get to play in it.
Right.
There
were some games that we were looking forward to. I mean, there's always great basketball up there. Not only that, I'm also on the TABC board and the Texas High School Coaches Association, committees, and they had to cancel those things too. There was just a lot of things that needed to be canceled. Canceling hotels, thank goodness that most hotels, they just kind of reimbursed us. They understood where everybody was coming from. So Dad, we just went up. We drove up, and then we were just like, you know what? Let's just drive back. So we drove back that night. So it was just a day trip pretty much for us.
We had a good meal.
Watching everything.
We had a good meal before we got on the road.
Yeah, we had a good meal, and then we just kind of went back. So I mean, we were fortunate, but I feel for the spring sports. I really do.
Basketball this year in the Valley, we talked earlier, I felt that this was a very strong year for boys basketball as a whole. I felt that area round, we had a couple of big wins, Edinburgh Vela, Los Fresnos. Brian, you and I called that game when they met each other in the third round at the Bird Ogden Arena. Just from a basketball perspective, where do you guys feel the sport is at when it comes to boys basketball in the Valley? Coach Mo, we'll start with you.
I go back, of course, I go way back, but the game has somewhat, well, I say not somewhat, it has changed a bunch, right? Of course, it's different. Kids are bigger, stronger for, I guess, their diets and the programs that are around, but basically back in the day, I've always been an up-tempo coach, and a lot of teams were just playing zone defenses and pretty much by the numbers and so forth and so forth. There at Memorial High School, when I was there, we were up-tempo. I mean, we pressed, we ran, we ran, we were in transition. I always believed in filling lanes and so to me, I think at that time we were doing things that are done now, So we were kind of a little ahead of the game, But that's always been my philosophy. For the most part, we played a zone. It was more of a matchup zone, but we also played man to man, and we pressured the ball as much as we could. Nowadays, it's a different. Like you go watch Harlingen South play, and I guarantee you, I wouldn't want to play them ever because we would never get the ball past midcourt. But as far as like I said, I was coaching at an era when before the 3-point line, but about midway or after a few years, the 3-point shot came in, and that changed the game. That changed the way you defend it, the way you guard it. If you played a zone, if you get somebody like Brian, you're going to get destroyed if you sit back in the zone, and that's what happened with us. I had a team. I think it was Brian's senior year, where I had really one of my best teams because I had good size and I had good shooting. I had two kids. One was both of them about 6'5". One of them was an athlete, a high jumper, went to University of Houston, and what it was hard for them to match up with us, and especially when they were in the zone. My gosh, we would just flood a zone or overload a zone, and Brian would kill them. If they helped out on him, he would just pop it inside. My 6'5" kid would just dunk it, really. But like I said, back in the day, there weren't really the size of the kids were not. It wasn't common to have 2 6'5" guys on the team, and so. But the game now today is it's exciting, the kids are more developed as far as because nowadays they're able to go to camps, they're able to go to, and they play a lot during the summertime. Back in the day, you couldn't have more than 3 guys from the same team playing together.
That was me when I was still in high school.
Yeah. So really, you couldn't get much of a team concept. The main thing is that for the first time they were allowed to play during the summer, whereas when we were in high school and I was in high school, we didn't touch the basketball till school started. I'm just kind of rambling a little bit, but my first coaching job was at Rio Hondo, Okay. And I was also coaching football. Well, back in the day, and especially in small schools like Rio Hondo, but the good athletes played football. Okay. But we were not allowed to get into the gym till after the last football game. So anyway, we played a Friday night game, and I'll be darned, we had a game on Tuesday of the following week. So it's kind of like put a team together, and of course I was a rookie. Nowadays, coaches coming up, there's a lot of good coaches uh, around that these young guys can emulate. That they can mentors. And back in the day, we really didn't, especially in basketball. You didn't have the big time coaches. There were some in football, football coaches uh, like Richard Flores, Alex Leal, and those guys. But we really didn't have anybody to really follow or to use as a mentor. So it was a lot of times just we did things like I did things uh, that at the time I didn't even know what to call them. Like we might run a 1-2-2 zone and trap on the corners, and we would just do it. I didn't even know how to call what you called it, but it was just learn as you go. You learn by hook or crook. I would say, and you learn to adjust. See, that's what I think where I learned a lot as far as being able to create. To be creative with what you have out there. And so that was the big difference. And of course, as the years went on, the game began to change a little bit. We had a kid when I was at actually before I went to Memorial, I was at PSJA, and I had Jaime Gongora, Robert Silva, a great team. And I mean, Robert Silva was shooting the three before the three. And a funny story is that we're playing Weslaco. It was a tournament in Harlingen, and well, Robert got hit with an elbow, broke his nose. So we had a game. Well, this was on a Friday. Well, a Saturday we had to go back, and when he got hit Friday. So when we got back, they fixed him up with a mask. I mean, it looked like it's weird, scary. But he goes out and he scores 41 points or something like that. That's because we were experimenting with the 3-point line in that year was the year before we actually made it official with a 3-point line. And I think Coach Owens was here in Harlingen. So they rigged up the field, I mean the court with tape and stuff, and we used the 3-point line. And Robert had 41 points with a mask. So I said, okay, guys, from now on, everybody's gonna get a mask. And but that just taking you back to before the 3 and then after the 3, of course, wow, that changed everything. So anyway, those are just some of the little stories that are funny. I'm talking too much.
No, you're doing great.
There was some funny stories that you develop rapport with your kids to the point, like when I went to PSJA, a lot of those kids, they found out we moved over there during the summer, and we lived right across the street from the high school. Well, the kids found out that I was there already, So they started coming over to the house, they started coming over to the house, and pretty soon, I think they were Brian's babysitters. Jaime and those guys, they were Brian's babysitters, and Larissa, my daughter, who, by the way, is also a great coach. She's at Rowe and McAllen. But anyway, they were babysitters. So we developed a family atmosphere, you know, which and I knew they were great kids. They were great kids, but it was kind of, a lot of them were from the they didn't come from the rich part of town, if there's such a thing in FAR. But anyway, we developed a camaraderie, and anyway, they got real close to us. But going back to that same one Christmas, this is when I was at Memorial. I got a phone call from one of the kids. It was during Christmas time. He said, "Coach, are you there?" I go, "Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna come over." So pretty soon I see a bunch of cars coming over and parking in the front, and man, before we knew it, I was like, man, it was all the kids had come down, and they went over to the house, and then they just surprised me. They all brought their own stuff, and we had a little party, and they started telling me stories. And one funny story, one funny story. The kids were saying, "Coach, remember when we were playing Edinburgh, and it was at the time when we were in these were my Memorial kids that were there, and he said, remember we were playing Edinburgh?" Yeah, and we were tied with Laredo Nixon for the district. Oh, yeah. I remember when we just were playing horrible at halftime, and at halftime you were ripping us in the locker room, and there was a box at the corner, and you kicked the box, and your foot got stuck. He said your foot got stuck in the box, and you were trying to, you're still going at us and ripping us. And he said, "Coach, we were trying not to laugh." He said we were just, and he said finally, I reached over and got my foot out of the box, and I said, "Oh man!" And they told me so many stories. He said, "Coach, you'd never believe the stuff that we did. You never knew." Anyway, by the way, we ended up losing that game by 1, and so we ended up as co-champions with Laredo Nixon that year.
So
Anyway.
Jaime Gongora was your babysitter?
Yes, he was. Man,
Wow.
Kevin, we laugh because like Jaime and Bert is actually the assistant coach for Sam over at McAllen Memorial. Like
Mhm.
those guys, my parents would take off, and then they put me in the back of the car. We go cruising down 10th Street when I guess that was cool back in the day, and they had like Sonic and I mean, I'm just sitting in the back seat. As a matter of fact, you remember things when you're small. We were about to go on vacation to Astroworld and go
Yeah.
watch the Astros game. And the next day, right before we left, Bert and Jaime both showed up with clothes and paper in a paper bag and just went on vacation with us. Like my parents were like, "Hey, you can go with us if you want." And we didn't think they'd show up. They showed up the next day, and I'll never forget, either Jaime or Bert caught a foul ball at the baseball game, at the Astros game,
Oh yeah.
to me and gave it to me or whatever. Of course, they were off doing their own thing or whatever, but no, they go away on vacation with us. So there's just little things that I remember about them. I mean, them, and then when Dad got the job over at McAllen Memorial, Raul Vega, who's now the athletic coordinator, one of the assistant athletic directors there in McAllen. He was a row coach for a while. I mean, he would babysit me too. I remember we had a tournament in San Antonio. I fell asleep in his lap in the front seat, when I wasn't even in junior high yet. So a lot of these guys, I've been looking up. They're my heroes, man. I've been looking up to obviously the dad, as a coach and stuff. And those guys as players, I was fortunate because I grew up around Dad's teams. So I was always the little ball boy, the little guy, always just kind of poking my head in the huddles. I didn't realize I was already getting educated to be a coach someday. From dad, and then obviously dad when he started out, he was Coach Roy Garcia's assistant, and and Coach Roy Garcia has a son my age, so we were both running around gyms and just kind of poking our head in there. We would actually sit under we fit under our dad's chairs, those metal chairs. We'd fit right under. We'd sit there and watch games and stuff. And I mean, those are just childhood memories that I have. And so I've actually got to see the game evolve. Going back to your question about just basketball in general, watching dad's teams in the past, and there were some great teams. And then, even nowadays, like my boys, for one thing they love to ask is, hey coach, so would your high school team beat us? And of course I just started laughing. I'm like, guys, we would have trashed y'all. It wouldn't even have been a game. I mean, it was just different back then. And I'd mess with them. I joke with them and stuff. And I have to understand, there was only one Edinburgh back then. There was only Mac High and Memorial. There was only one Harlingen High. There was only one PSJA High. So, so everybody kind of went to the same school. I think that had a lot to do with it. But I tell my boys now, I say, guys, y'all are living the ESPN PlayStation era. I mean, you could just flip on the thing and be LeBron James any day of the week on playing these video games. I said, back then we didn't have that kind of stuff. I know Nintendo was around, I guess, but most of the time we spent outdoors doing things. I think that's one of the biggest challenges as a coach right now is building a program, building a rapport, and trying to get the idea across to the kids that you're only in high school one time. You only get this one shot. You can play Nintendo or whatever they have, PlayStation, Xbox, whenever you want now. And then just watching the players evolve, watching the game evolve. Now you got the bigger, stronger, quicker, faster athletes. Back in the day, everybody played everything. I played football, basketball, tennis, cross country. I mean, I did everything. The multi-sport athlete is kind of now, I think nowadays it's kind of going away because now you have year-round basketball, you have year-round baseball, you have year-round softball. Heck, you even have year-round football now. I mean, with Taifa and stuff like that. So, I mean, now you're starting to see those athletes kind of specialize. Obviously, social media has played a big role in that. I mean, we're more educated now. So, as a coach, I'm trying to evolve with the times. I'm trying to move with the times, talking to coaches around the state. We were picking each other's brains because thank goodness that, nobody wants to see a pandemic, but at least we have the type of technology to be able to still be somewhat successful and still be able to do things during these times. During these times of the pandemic. So, I'm fortunate for that. So, but I grew up with great memories from watching my dad's teams to actually playing. Of course, I talk trash to my boys, when they do things and stuff like that. But it's just all in fun.
Definitely. We're a couple weeks after the Last Dance documentary got aired. I'm sure you guys watched it. What were y'all's thoughts on that? Being able to watch MJ and all those teams and just talking about eras of basketball.
I got to see probably going back to some of those when Michael Jordan was first coming in and so forth and so forth. And I was sitting there with somebody and I was telling him, a lot of times you kind of forgot, and because you see all these guys nowadays, and the NBA game also has changed a little bit, from the time when Michael Jordan first came out. But I guarantee you, man, I'm still amazed at the things that Michael Jordan could do, and so forth, and how he controlled, how he pretty much dominated the game, and so forth. So I keep trying to compare him to, say, LeBron, and I don't know. I still say Michael Jordan, but again, LeBron is a different player from what Michael Jordan was. As far as he's bigger, heck of a lot stronger and stuff. But anyway, I really enjoyed watching that.
Brian?
Yeah, I just like Dad said, I enjoyed it. I mean, I like I read a lot, so I read a lot of the books that Jordan had put out. Obviously, the Jordan rules and everything like that. But I liked it more for my high school kids. That was part of our homework assignment. You guys are going to watch that. We're going to talk about it. And a lot of them, they had no idea. They had no clue. Of course, they live in the Kobe, the LeBron, this era right now. And they realize even how much the NBA has evolved and changed. I mean, obviously, the amount of contact that was allowed back when the Pistons and the Bulls and all those guys are playing, compared to now, now there's flagrant twos and you're fined and all kinds of stuff. I mean, the game has evolved. And, speaking to a couple of my players, they're like, man, coach, everybody says how good Jordan was, but we didn't really realize it. I mean, so watching them, I mean, nowadays you have bigger athletes. People ask, I don't really compare. I like both. Everybody's like, oh, Kobe versus this or LeBron versus Jordan. Of course, Dad knows that, LeBron is a royalty to us. One of my best friends is his trainer, so obviously we pull for him. But it's just a different type of athlete. But just watching that whole Jordan rules thing, it brought, I mean, the whole Last Dance thing, it brought a lot of memories, good memories when I was young. I mean, just really, really good memories. And watching the guys that I looked up to, when I was growing up, as a basketball player was pretty neat.
Before we wrap up, Coach, looking forward to next year. We got the district realignment, a little bit of changes in your district, and also on what's coming back as well in 32-6As. Let's talk a little bit about what the outlook is like for Harlingen South next year.
Top to bottom, Kevin. I think obviously our district got tougher adding Westaco and even Donna North. Donna North is taking steps in the right direction. I saw that they won several games in their district this past season. So I know they're on the up and up. The thing with us with Harlingen South is I'm fortunate. No one ever wants a pandemic to hit, but if it's going to hit, it hit with the season that's coming up and the fact that I have 8 players coming back. So I know that they're already doing the right things. Team chemistry, we should have it. All 8 of those players, they all saw the starting lineup. 4 of them saw the starting lineup about 75 to 80% of all games. So those are all pluses for us. I'm mixing in one JV player that I think is going to see some playing time, and then I got to have an 8th grader, an incoming freshman who's been playing with my varsity group since he was a 7th grader. And last year in the varsity summer league, he was averaging darn near 25 as a 7th grader. So he's going to help us out, obviously, and I know our well, there goes a secret, but I know our players have already embraced him as well. And so I know we're looking forward to the challenge, but if you look from top to bottom, our district, and I know everybody says, hey, you know what, we have the toughest district coming up this year. But I really believe, Kevin, that our district is going to be just flat out loaded. Every team, really realistically, Ravetta's returning everybody, only losing 1 player off their team this past year. Brownsville Hanna had a young team this past year. San Benito just saw the playoffs for the first time in I don't know how long, in a while, since Dad was there and stuff. I mean, it's been a while. And so I know they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. I know they'll probably be in a rebuilding year. And then, Marco's going to sit there and tell you, oh, well, we're rebuilding. We had a senior ball club. Yeah, but you're also returning a freshman that, without a doubt, was one of the best players in the Valley. I mean, he's just, he's a head and shoulders better than any freshman that I've seen in a while. I mean, the kid can flat out play. He won their JV won, their freshman dark team won it, their sophomore team won it, and their JV light team won it. So Los Fresno's just going to reload. So they're going to be tough. And then obviously, we lost in a tough one to Westaco this past year. Well, Westaco is returning, I think, 10 guys from that team this past year. So and Harlingen High is always loaded. Obviously, Coach Creeders did a great job this past year, and he, I know he's going to continue the success. So it's just one of those things from top to bottom that our district is without a doubt going to be tough. I'm hoping and praying that we're able to that everything starts on time. I know we got invited to. I think we're the only Valley team that got invited to the San Antonio Spurs are actually having a high school tournament this coming year, and I think they found out that we have a good group of guys coming back this year, so we got invited to that. I think and I think Ashley's taking her girls, so they got invited also. So I think we're both going up there for that San Antonio Spurs tournament, and our schedule's loaded as usual. So I know we're looking forward to the challenge. I know the boys are anxious to get back in the gym, but as far as team chemistry and stuff is concerned, I think we're ahead of the game because I return 8 guys that have all seen the starting lineup already, and so I think we're just itching to be able to take off. I was telling Dad, probably the biggest blow we had this past year was when we finished the season. Usually I have to go through okay, let's work on certain things. We got a brand new team. We got to do team chemistry. We got to see how they play. I was just about to just finish off where we left off and just keep going because, I mean, my team is back. My team is back. I'll add a couple of sprinkles here and there that are going to help us be successful. But as far as our team is concerned, we're going. And I think we have really good leadership. I put a lot on my seniors. Especially my captain and a lot of this stuff, Kevin. It's like Dad said. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And that big word trust just comes in, and that's been the big word with us during quarantine. Guys, I trust you. I trust your character. I trust this, and I'm going to find out Monday exactly how much work they've been doing. Obviously, but I put a lot on my captains, and I think my captains have done a really good job of doing all the communicating and keeping the guys in the loop. Because in the end, it's like I tell them, this is your team, it's not my team. I'm just blessed to be able to call myself your coach. But in the end, this is your team, and the type of mark, the type of legacy you want to leave here is going to be entirely up to them. So I know they're looking forward to the challenge, and I know they're looking forward to Monday. I've already talked to a couple of them.
Kristen Lucky says 2 of my favorite coaches.
Hey, Kristen.
Larissa Molina put Familia with the pink heart. At least I think it's pink. It could be purple for all I know. I'm colorblind. Mike and Cavazos Espinosa, Mo and Brian Molina, 2 awesome head coaches.
Well, I appreciate that.
And then Roel Rodriguez has a question for you guys. Which is the best RGV basketball team that they have ever seen in their career? Oh, well, yeah, that's a tough one. There's so many, and I know we were recently.
Yeah, I sent you my list, Kevin, and I was like, wow, and that was the what the post Santa Rosa making the state tournament.
Yeah,
I remember Dad's teams, and heck, even when I was like 5 or 6, I remember the mission teams that Dad used to have. And I'm just like, man, and then even Harlingen High, those guys were loaded. I mean, there's just a lot of good teams out there when it comes to my area of coaching. And then obviously playing is just a different story too. I mean, Dad probably has more than I do. I mean,
probably one of the most memorable games down here, as far as what I can remember, as far as and it was a seeding game when I was at PSJA. We played Harlingen, and we were co-champions, and we played at Pan Am at the time, and we had a sellout crowd. I mean, it was packed. I mean, we had I don't know what the seating was, but over 5,000 people at that game. And it was Jaime Gongora and Robert Silva, those kids that I had in Harlingen had, and Johnny Jackson and those kids. I mean, it was 2 awesome teams going after it, and we had people from all over the valley at that game, and those were 2 great teams. Sherryland had some great teams. Remember when they went to I don't know if Roel was playing on that group.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, when they went,
Yeah, he was.
they went to the state tournament. That was an awesome team. my team that I had in '93, Brian's senior year, when I had the Christian, the twins, that was an awesome team. So there's a lot of teams. I know Brownsville had some good teams back in those days. Mission, when Jaime Pena, Juan Reyna, Jerry Farias, those were unbelievable teams. And back in those days, there was only one district champion. I mean, there was only one team that advanced to the playoffs. So a lot of really great teams got left out of the playoffs. I think we got to play when only teams Brian's junior year, and that was a great
10 team district tournament. 10 team
Yeah.
district. Yeah,
and only two teams advanced to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And to me, that was one of my best teams, one of my better teams, and we didn't even make the playoffs that year. But the thing about it is they came back for their senior year, and then that's when we really did well. So
yeah, and it's tough. And I mean, as far as teams that I've coached, obviously my regional tournament team, that team, going back to what Dad said, we were fortunate to play. All the stars aligned, and we were 3 points away from advancing to the regional final against Judson, and we lost to Madison, and obviously it was seating capacity, and then they were turning people away at the door, people staying the night for tickets the night before. I mean, I was just fortunate to be able to coach in a situation like that. It's funny because Coach Romine is a coach at San Antonio Madison. His assistant at the time is now the head coach at PSJ, Coach Davenport. And we still, as a matter of fact, we Zoom all the time, and we sat there. We still talk about that game, and we laugh because there was one point where one of their kids was shooting a free throw, and it was so loud in the gym that the net was actually moving. I mean, it was one of those things that I couldn't even talk to my kids. I called timeout, and we're in the middle of the court, kind of just trying to talk about it. But there's been some great teams that obviously that I even played against when I was in high school, and I mean to say that the one team that's just wow is pretty hard to put my finger on. Really is. I know that in 1993. I know we were ranked way up there in the state, and then Harlingen High was ranked way up there in the state. I mean, with Adam Lowry and Fabian Flowers and those guys, I mean, they were loaded at the time and stuff. So, I mean, there's been some pretty good teams that have come out of the Valley. Obviously, the Vela team that went to the state tournament, you have the Santa Rosa teams, obviously, in the common era right now that stick out, in my mind as well. And obviously, Coach Swift's era with JJ Avila and those guys. I mean, heck, they made 3 straight trips to the regional tournament. Those guys, sophomore, junior, and senior year. I mean, those are some great teams.
Definitely. Yeah, I remember the Pan Am. We were at Pan Am when you all played Madison.
Oh yeah.
Right, and I think it was the doubleheader with Edinburgh North and Judson.
Edinburgh North played Judson afterwards.
Right. Yeah, I remember being that it was a big deal. I do remember those 2 games when I was there covering them. Before we go, guys, any shout outs you guys would like to give out to any of your athletes or any family that may be watching?
Hey, Kevin, I just want to say one thing. There is a coach out there that it's my daughter. I guarantee you, she's kind of always been in the shadows. But I promise you, that's the best kept secret. She is an unbelievable coach. She was a head coach at Lyford for a while, and she is the assistant at Bro. Not because she can't find a head coaching job. She would rather be an assistant. But talk about knowledge. We'll all sit together in the dinner table, Brian, Rissa, and myself, and we'll just talk basketball. My wife had passed the rule, no basketball at the dinner table. But she is a great coach. I mean, she would go scout for us. A lot of times she'd go scout for Brian, or she'd go scout for me, and she'd come back with scouting reports. I mean, like, Jesus, Emita, you should be a head coach somewhere. Because no, Dad, I don't want to mess with that stuff.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out that she is as good a coach as as there is out there.
Shoot, Kevin, she saved me in basketball and in volleyball. I understand you're talking to a guy that was an assistant coach in volleyball. I had to be a head coach for 1 year, not by choice. I had to be a head coach in volleyball, and of course, my poor sister was getting phone calls all the time. I didn't even know what I'm like. Okay, what are the rules for the libero? You got to explain this to me because I don't even understand. And it's just going on and on. But she's doing well. Of course, I want to send shout out to all my boys by the Harlingen South family. And you guys, man, you guys have been doing a great job of keeping us in the loop. As far as athletics are concerned, I know it's tough for you guys not being able to cover anything right now. Especially as I know y'all are in it because of what obviously you do it for the love, just like us as coaches. So, but now I appreciate you, man. I watch your shows all the time and you covering all these athletes, especially the ones that are going to go play at the next level, and you're kind of touching base on a lot of issues and things and trying to keep sports alive. So I know we appreciate it. And then you keep playing all these games in the past. I'm like, oh man, cool. I've watched several football games that have been great and even basketball games. And it's funny how it just triggers like, oh man, I remember that game. Cool. And I just start watching it. And sometimes I don't even know, I forget who won. So I kind of play that whole, man, I wonder who won this game is. So it's been nice. So I appreciate you guys for even thinking of us and having Dad and I on here. I know it means a lot to us and anything you need on our end, we're always here for you guys. So
appreciate you, Kevin.
Of course.
And happy birthday to Coach Lucio again.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Coach.
Yeah, it's Coach Lucio.
She's lucky she doesn't exactly have to have a quarantine birthday, but hopefully she'll have something for her later.
Yeah. My birthday was last week, and she called me it was like 7:30 or 8 in the morning. She's like, "Coach, you up?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, I'm taking you coffee and I'm taking you this for your birthday." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks, Coach." It's just she's awesome, man. She's been a blessing to Harlingen South. She really has, especially to the volleyball program. There's been some great coaches, obviously, Coach Lunsford, Coach Garza, and so so she's kind of come in and built her own little model, her own little version of the program, and she's feisty, man. She's volleyball knowledge and stuff. So we have a lot of fun with that. So, but man, thanks for your time, Kevin. We appreciate it.
Definitely. Yeah. A quick story on Coach Luce was Billy was like, man, he's like, I was a little intimidated to maybe interview her or talk to her because she looks mean. I'm like, no, she is like the last person that's mean. I'm like, but I tell you what though, that face she makes is a win, lose, tie. That does not change. It's the same face. It's like, if you know, and I go, it's not a bad thing. I go, but it's good. She's consistent.
Yeah, Kevin, it's funny that you say that because when she was at Wesco before this, and so we had another coach, Coach Talley, and when we got to Wesco, Coach Talley's like, "Hey, can you go ask their coach, Coach Lucio? She's sitting over there where the girls locker room is." I'm like, "I'm not gonna go talk to her. You go talk to her. She looks mean." And so I tell that to Coach Lucio all the time, and she gets mad at me. It's like, "Coach, I'm not mean." And I'm like, "No, that's just her face. Win, lose, or draw. She's all business. She's all business." But she's a real big family person, and she's got a huge heart. And man, she really cares for the girls, and you could tell. I mean, if you have that part as a coach, they'll run through walls for you. I mean, it's all about building relationships. That's how I am with my boys. I tell them all the time, you always want to pay me back. You want to reward me, walk across that podium, get that degree, and then come back and see me. I'm big on that. Dad's big on that too. I mean, my biggest things are seeing those guys graduate and then come in to visit. I love it. And, I actually have two of my former players as my assistants, and I couldn't be happier. And then a lot of my ex-basketball players were my dad's assistants over at MMA, just kind of starting out their coaching careers. So to be able to learn from a legend I know they appreciate it, and they're going to be good coaches too someday. So.
Definitely. Well, again, coaches, thanks for taking the time to join us here on our show. And really, Coach Mo, I said, those stories are great. If anybody wants to just take a back seat and listen to some history and get a little history lesson, you can always go back and watch this.
Oh,
Great
this
stuff.
past Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, we sat there from like, I kid you not, Kevin, from about 1 till 7, Dad, just
Yeah,
telling
oh, yeah,
stories. We
yeah.
ate lunch and Dad was just telling stories, and we're just like, wow.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's
Oh, yeah.
awesome, man. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
So and you're always welcome to the family dinners, Kev. If you ever want to listen to some sports.
Definitely, absolutely. That sounds good to me. But yeah, again, Coach Mo Molina of Marine Military Academy, the Hall of Famer, and Coach Brian Molina of Harlingen South. Coaches, you guys stay safe, and hopefully we'll be able to see all you guys real soon, whether it's at a dinner or on the basketball court.
Sounds great, man.
See you guys.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
See you later.